The file begins. His name is now Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, a name scrubbed clean of its former glory, like blood from a marble floor. The title of Prince, a ghost. The Dukedom of York, a memory. By February 2026, the exile is complete. Royal Lodge, his fortress of 2 decades, stands empty. Its silence is heavier than any stone. Pause. He is now a tenant on the Sandringham estate, a ghost haunting the grounds of his own family's power. The public perception is not one of sympathy. It is a cold, hard satisfaction. The headlines were the first wave of the assault. The unsealed documents were the final verdict. His entire life reduced to a series of damning photographs and email chains. An anatomy of a fall, written in cold, digital ink. Further revelations were promised. The worst was yet to come. The monarchy acted not with familial sorrow, but with the brutal efficiency of a corporation cutting a toxic asset. The crown must survive, even if it means amputating a limb. King Charles's signature on the directive was the scalpel, a clean cut. But the wound continued to fester. The catalyst was a posthumous audit from a digital grave. The Epstein files, unsealed, unforgiving. Hundreds of pages where his name appears again and again. A litany of poor judgment, a chronicle of fatal errors. Then came the new claim. A woman sent to Royal Lodge in 2010. A tour of the palace. Thames Valley Police began their assessment. The machine of justice, slow but grinding, turned its gaze towards him. The family's attempt to build a firewall was failing. The flames were already inside the palace walls. The digital ink of the Epstein files was an acid, dissolving the last vestiges of royal mystique. Pause. His name, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, appeared over 300 times. Not as a guest, but as an asset, a commodity. The documents laid bare the grim transactional nature of their bond. There was the email from Ferguson, his ex-wife, calling Epstein the brother I have always wished for, while urgently requesting £20,000, a pittance traded for the illusion of access. Then, the photographs. Undated, grainy. Andrew kneeling. Not in prayer, but over an unidentified woman on a floor. A tableau of power imbalance captured in cheap pixels. His own communications were a roadmap to ruin. The Christmas cards sent to a predator featuring his own daughters. The invitation for Epstein to dine at Buckingham Palace. Each email a nail. Each attachment a shovelful of dirt on a closing coffin. This wasn't a friendship. It was an inventory of sins. The inventory of sins became a mountain of legal filings. The Jouffre civil case was the long-delayed reckoning. His initial response was a portrait in arrogance, a televised interview intended to be a masterstroke of public relations. Pause. It became his public execution. He spoke of an inability to sweat, of a trip to a Pizza Express in Woking. Alibis so mundane they became fantastical, memorable for all the wrong reasons. His lawyers fought not the accusation, but the process. They argued jurisdiction. They questioned timelines. They tried to drown the truth in a sea of procedural motions. But one piece of evidence was irrefutable. A photograph. Pause, Andrew, his arm wrapped around a 17-year-old Virginia Jouffre. Pause, Ghislaine Maxwell smiling in the background. A single image that demolished 1,000 words of denial. In the end, there was no trial. No day in court. There was only a settlement. A multi-million-pound payment to the woman he claimed he had never met. The price of silence. A bitter testament that in the court of public opinion, and sometimes in the courts of law, innocence is not presumed. It is purchased. The purchase was supposed to close the ledger, a transaction to bury the truth under a mountain of cash. But the digital grave of Jeffrey Epstein was shallow, and in early 2026, the shovels struck bone. A new cache of documents, unsealed and released. Pause. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's name appeared hundreds of times, a relentless drumbeat of association. The posthumous audit of Epstein's empire revealed not just ledgers and flight logs, but something more visceral. Photographs, undated images showing Andrew kneeling over an unidentified woman on a floor. A tableau of degradation, frozen in time. The files also held an invitation for Epstein to dine at Buckingham Palace, and Christmas cards from Andrew, with photos of his own daughters inside. Then came the new voice. A lawyer for another woman, another accuser. She claimed Epstein sent her to the United Kingdom in 2010 for a sexual encounter with Andrew at Royal Lodge. She was even given a tour of the palace. Thames Valley Police are now assessing the claim. The past is never dead. It's not even past. It's just waiting to be unsealed. The digital ghosts of Epstein's island were now rattling the gates of the palace. The stain was no longer containable. It was a contagion threatening the crown itself. And the king had to act. The monarchy is an ancient ship of state. Andrew was an anchor, dragging it toward the rocks. Pause. So the king cut the chain. In October 2025, the verdict came not from a court, but from a brother. Charles III stripped Andrew of his titles. Prince was gone. Duke of York was history. He was to be known only as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, a name, not a station. The sentence was exile, an order to vacate Royal Lodge, his home for 2 decades. By February 2026, the move was complete. A temporary relocation to Sandringham, a gilded cage. The firm was amputating a gangrenous limb, a brutal act of self-preservation. Even his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, was collateral damage in the files, her emails painting a portrait of desperate intimacy with Epstein. The family's PR machine, once a formidable fortress, was reduced to one strategy. Pause. Excision. A public banishment to prove that no one is bigger than the institution. But an excision is never clean. It leaves a phantom limb, a ghost in the machine. The start of 2026 brought not closure, but a fresh exhumation. A vast cache of Epstein's files, unsealed and unforgiving. Andrew's name appeared hundreds of times. A digital breadcrumb trail leading back to the abyss. The documents were an anatomy of indiscretion. An invitation for Epstein to dine at Buckingham Palace. An offer from the financier to introduce Andrew to a young Russian woman. Then, the truly grotesque detail. Christmas cards sent to Epstein. Pause. Featuring photographs of his own daughters. The public judgment was no longer about association. It was about a profound, systemic failure of character. Then a new accuser surfaced, a woman allegedly sent by Epstein to Royal Lodge in 2010. Thames Valley Police began assessing the claim. The walls weren't just closing in. They were the walls of a tomb being built brick by brick with each new revelation. This is the final entry in the ledger, the posthumous audit of a life of privilege. What is the legacy of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor? It is not in buildings or charities. It is a cautionary tale whispered in the corridors of power. A case study in how proximity to darkness stains even the brightest of crowns. The monarchy, in its ancient wisdom, treated him like a radioactive asset, buried deep, encased in concrete and silence. He became a ghost, haunting the edges of the family portrait. His story serves as a bitter testament, a reminder that no title, no lineage, and no fortress of stone can protect a man from the consequences of his choices. He traded a birthright for a friendship, a dukedom for a dalliance in the shadows. The final verdict is not written in law books, but in the cold, unblinking memory of the internet. His is a digital coffin. Pause. Sealed forever.